now on a Monday. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Hope you had a wonderful Mother's Day. This is Greeny in New York. Delighted to get this thing rolling. And look who's gotten up with us today. Jay will be along in a minute talking hoops. And we got Dominique. We got Dan Graziano. We got Ryan Clark. We've got all the makings. The look on Neek's face, I think, says it all. But we begin in the NBA. The Suns, the Lakers. The performance of the night came from Anthony Davis with LeBron James looking on. And a big one against the Suns, a team they could see in the playoffs. He would watch Anthony Davis dominate. Look at him early inside. That's big man to big man. Drummond throwing it up. AD throwing it down. Lakers had a 7-0 lead and would really never look back. Here he is, AD, working baseline. He had double figures in the first quarter for the first time since returning from injury. And he wasn't done. Second quarter, Suns in transition. Look out. From behind, Anthony Davis gets Jay Crowder. Take a look at that. Shades of Game 7 from years ago. Davis making it happen both ends of the floor. Later in the second, it's a 14-point game. He's working on Frank Kaminsky. Yes, Davis with 22 at the half. Lakers up a dozen. Third quarter, more LA, more AD. Was Mr. Inside? He's Mr. Outside. 34 points through 3 for Anthony Davis. And there were 3 right there. Fourth quarter, Lakers are up by 10. It's Alex Caruso. It's AD. Oh, the reverse slam. 42 points, 12 rebounds, 3 blocks for Anthony Davis, carrying the Lakers to a 13-point win in a showdown against the Suns as we're a week away from the postseason.
Just because we're a lower seed, we're not going to back down from anybody. We're going to come out and play Lakers basketball, and I think teams know that and fear that as well. What I'm saying from LeBron today, he'll be fine. Trust me, he'll be fine.
Now we will see. After this win last night, the Lakers are now a single game back of the 6th seed Portland with 4 games remaining on the schedule. Our analytics still sees the 7th seed as their most likely finish, a 45% chance to end up in that spot. And here he is, Jay Williams from across the hall, the Jay from KJZ, coast to coast on ESPN Radio. So, if Anthony Davis plays like that, is he enough to carry the Lakers deep into the playoffs if LeBron's ankle just never gets to be 100%?
No. Look, obviously, you need Dennis Schroeder, you need Kyle Kuzma to play at a high level. I was very impressed with the way the Lakers defended last night against the Suns. But you need LeBron James to close the deal. And let's not get things twisted here. It is a win or bust season for the Lakers. That's what you want if you're LeBron James or AD. I think AD can have great performances, but with the depth of the Western Conference, I think it will be challenging for them to go very deep without LeBron James.
Well, look, I mean, let's start with them even getting there in the first place. If everything sort of ended up the way it is right now, they'd be in that play-in tournament. And I will tell you right now, the way Steph Curry is playing, the idea of having to deal with him in a one-game scenario, that might be the scariest possibility the Lakers get the entire way.
That's fine. I'll take if LeBron James and AD are back and Dennis Schroeder is back on the court against Stephen Curry, I will easily take the Lakers. And I'll tell you this, Greeny, if you're the Lakers and you just had a big-time defensive performance last night against the Suns, AD dropped 42 points, no Dennis Schroeder, no Kyle Kuzma. Great. Give me the Phoenix Suns in the first round. Great. You know, Phoenix has always been known for rejuvenating players' careers. Phoenix will rejuvenate LeBron James in the first round of the playoff series, and that will give them the momentum they need going to the next round.
So we're overlooking Steph. We're overlooking the Steph threat factor when right now he's the most exciting show in the sport.
I'm not overlooking it. I'm just stating to you that the threat factor of LeBron James and AD and Dennis Schroeder is way higher than the threat factor of Stephen Curry alone.
All right, so I'm going to ask you the question I feel like I ask you every single day when you're nice enough to come over here at one of your commercial breaks. Lakers are the field in the West right now.
Field. I need to see LeBron James. And I'll say this. Watching the Clippers play with the addition of Rajon Rondo, with the way they play, the Clippers might be the team to beat in the Western Conference. I still need to see Donovan Mitchell come back off that ankle. Granted, Utah's the best team, but Clippers have the star power, and there's that narrative that follows Paul George from last year. They have something to prove this year.
It is a wild, wild West, and we are about a week away from the tournament beginning. We'll see where it goes, and KJZ is every morning with you, coast to coast on ESPN Radio. Thank you, Jay.
Thanks, man.
7-8 in the play-in. That's a meme.
Steph having a little fun with that possibility. I think a lot of folks would like to see that game, but if Davis is playing the way he played on Sunday night, Brendan, and LeBron is back, and we don't know for sure when that's going to happen, how much will the Warriors or anybody else have their hands full once again with the defending champs?
Well, if the AD that we got tonight shows up into that play-in tournament, the Golden State Warriors have no shot at all. Because if LeBron is back and AD's playing at this level, we've seen what that is before. That's championship level Laker basketball. So anything can happen in a one-game setting. Steph could get hot and go for 50. But if AD is playing like this, it's a wrap.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I pay big money to go watch it. I think that is two of the best, offensive powers in the Western Conference. So for me, the difference of style, Draymond Green trying to guard AD, obviously Wiggins and Kelly Oubre trying to match up against Bron, just a matchup, just a coaching. It'd just be good basketball. But I do think the Lakers, their hole in their ace in the hole would be Anthony Davis. He's too complete right now of a player, especially if he's playing like that. It doesn't need to be 40. But 30, how he's playing like that makes them ridiculously dangerous.
Back-to-back 30-point games for Davis now. If Schroeder's back, if LeBron's back, if they're whole again, how much does that change? The fact that Anthony Davis is playing like AD, not the version we saw after he came back from the injury.
I think if you're a coach, you better huddle up, right? Huddle up. If you're Utah, Phoenix, and these other top 3-4 teams, you're like, hey, okay, we had a scout. We had a defensive game plan. Now we got to switch it back up. Right, I think the Lakers they have vets, they have shooters, and the problem is you're just betting on Anthony Davis missing shots.
He became the first Laker with at least 40 points, 10 boards, 5 assists, 3 steals, and 3 blocks in a game since Shaquille O'Neal back in March of 2001. Sunday, of course, was Mother's Day, as I mentioned, and before the game, we spoke with Robin Paul, Chris Paul's mother, and had a very important question.
Green, these guys know how to play. They got some young players that they're bringing along. No Klay Thompson, but still, they've proven that if you give Steph Curry the game when it's close, with 5 minutes or 6 minutes left in the game, it turns out to be his game in a lot of cases. So, dangerous team, and I'm sure that the league is going to love this. It's like a little bonus game before the playoffs start, a playoff feel to it. So yeah, it'll be big, and the Lakers will have to respond.
That's the thing, Rob. You're not just getting the Warriors for a 7-game series; it's a 1-game situation.
NCAA, NBA style.
Love it in the NBA.
And think about it, it's just going to really see what teams are made of. If you're really a pretender or a contender, when you get down that 6, 7, 8 spots, there's always a jockeying for position. This is going to let everybody know if this team's supposed to be here, or if the other team was like a team like the Lakers that was filled with injuries and kind of slid down to that spot, or you was a team who started out bad like the Warriors and now you got hot as the season went on. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out and see how the actual players feel about it when it's all said and done.
And Brez, Steph Curry, numbers off the charts, has his team playing great basketball. He's a wild card.
Yeah, averaging 34 over his last 10. That's pretty good right there. His last game, he made 11 threes all by himself. Most NBA teams don't even average that. I mean, that's crazy numbers right there.
For how many times this season, too? Yeah,
I mean, just night after night. He's draining threes, and teams double team him. Maybe some teams should try to triple team him because he still gets loose, gets his 30-plus points a game. It's been a fun team to watch, and I can see why NBA fans, outside of Laker fans, would be very intrigued by seeing this one-game winner-take-all matchup potentially starting in about a week and a half. Steph Curry, not quite an MVP candidate. You can't really get those type of votes if you're 9th in your conference, but still an amazing season for him without his backcourt mate, Klay Thompson.
I know we were talking about the rest for this week if they were a top 6 seed. We know that the Lakers knew that when they were healthy and at full strength, this is not where they should be. But here we are. So how do you find the positive big game in these opportunities when they become game-like situations as you're gearing up for the postseason?
Yeah, your positive is we can play. We've struggled with a ton of injuries, a ton of different lineups. We've struggled with no practice time, and so you get things back together. That's your positive. You got AD back. Drummond still has to find his way. You kind of hope for that. And then you get Schroeder and you get all your teammates back. And then you kick it back to where you used to play. You got your bench, who was one of the best benches in the league. And then you got, your elite players and the best defensive team in the league. So that's the way you have to be thinking, whether you're in a playing game or whatever the scenario is.
For me, I look at the situation from the coach's side. They have a hard task because you're trying to figure out how to insert a guy like Drummond. You're trying to figure out how to navigate this without your point guard and with only one point guard. Then you're trying to figure out your best player that's ever played the game, LeBron James, is not in the game. It's hard on a coach. You don't know what game plan to come up with, how to do things. And then you say, okay, Marc Gasol, Trez, you will be starting on other teams, but I don't know if I want to have you come off the bench tonight, take a day off. It's hard on Coach Vogel and that staff, and that's one of the things that, for me, you need the practice time. For the coach can figure out what his game plan is and how he want to play his schedule and the teams he's going to go up against.
Yeah, so the regular season's going to end a week from today in New Orleans. Play-in game for the Lakers, assuming they're there, would be either the next Tuesday or Wednesday, 2 or 3 days later. Bad news for the Lakers, they're not going to get that week off. It really seems readily apparent that's going to be the situation. The new goal should be get out of the play-in tournament as quickly as possible, still salvage 3 or 4 days, get a little bit of rest, a little bit of practice, and then go from there.
Well said. We'll continue to keep a close eye on the play-in standings for the postseason. Lakers are currently a game and a half behind the Blazers for the 6th spot in the West, with just 5 games remaining. Blazers with some tough competition down the stretch with games versus the Jets.